For our victory today was a tremendous effort on the part of our entire football team, and we were extremely elated and happy, and it brought with it ecstatic joy for us certainly to win the national championship. I was proud of a lot of football players, all the football players. We certainly had some individuals that gave us real big performances, and like I say, it was an overwhelming victory for us, and I'm tickled to death for all of them. And we played a mighty fine football team in Texas A&I. They had a real talented football team, a football team that is extremely strong both offensively and defensively.
Well, I just felt like that it had the most to offer me as far as education and what I want to study. I want to go into accounting and maybe pre-law. And as far as down south, it can't be beat. And certainly there's no question in anybody's mind about the athletic program. It's been number one in the past, and I feel like it's going to be number one in the future.
Well, I just want to go with a winner, and I know the university will make a win out of me, and I just hope I can do my best and try to be what they're thinking of me.
Well, I believe the university has everything you really look for in a college. They have, you can get the best education anywhere you want to look, and they have the finest athletic program of anywhere, I believe, in the nation. And so I think the simplest answer is I just don't like to lose, and I think that's the best place.
Well, here when they're conflicting, for instance, they have another set of electors to support Humphrey. We already had a set of electors certified without any doubt or any question. I can't see the need for two sets of electors. The two sets of electors only divide the strength and the support that Humphrey will get. And I couldn't support that because it's against the objectives that we're striving for. We're trying to help elect Humphrey as president, not to defeat him. And from the way it looked to me, they must be trying to defeat him.
Democratic Conference and the NDPA. The NDPA wants a direct confrontation at the polls between Negroes and whites. You obviously don't agree with this philosophy.
We think it is much better to work in an integrated political setup rather than a completely black or completely white political setup. And for that reason, we have been working with the loyal Democrats in the state of Alabama in order that we shall have a chance for an integrated political setup. And this is what we're doing.
How many votes do you think that the Alabama Democratic Conference can influence statewide in Alabama? How many Negro votes?
It's very hard to say, but I think we can influence the majority of the Negro votes in the state, approximately 200,000.
The NDPA has a Negro candidate running in the 2nd Congressional District in Richard Boone. Why is the Alabama Democratic Conference here not supporting Boone?
Well, now, Mr. Boone, I know him quite well. I've been knowing him for quite a while. Has not sought our support at all. He has been trying to undermine our efforts here in the 2nd Congressional District, but that is not the main reason that we're not supporting Mr. Boone. In the first place, the National Democratic Party is still under litigation under the Supreme Court of the United States. We don't know as yet whether those members in this party will actually stand up They may be thrown out completely. And if that's the reason, I mean, if they are, then it would be foolish to throw your vote away on anybody in that column. We have supported candidates in this 2nd Congressional District in the primary. We have a fairly good chance of getting Dickinson out of the 2nd Congressional District. Mr. Boone's effort will do more to help to re-elect Mr. Dickinson than anything else. And for this reason, we don't think we should support Mr. Boone. We're trying to make the district a little better by changing the folks that we know so well that are bitterly against the Negro's progress, trying to get some, one rather, that we have a little more confidence in, and we have a much better chance to get him out with Whaley than we do with Boone. And for that reason, we support Whaley.
It was Tweedledum-Dum. Mr. Nixon is the man who at the Republican convention said he didn't care if black people voted for him, that he wasn't going to go looking for their votes. He just didn't care. And to show you how much he cares about minority groups, he selected as his vice presidential candidate a man who calls Polish Americans Polacks, and he calls Japanese Americans Japs. So you have some kind of idea what he calls us. Now then you've got another choice. You've got the third party candidate, the little hillbilly Hitler. His running mate is a trigger-happy tin soldier. You could vote for them if you wanted to, and that meant you'd get a domestic policy that meant getting you beat at home, and a foreign policy that meant bombing everybody that didn't agree with us, if you vote for them. And then you've got the Democrats. They're two good men. Now, I disagree with some of the things they say, but they're pretty good men. So you've got a clear-cut choice there. But somebody's going to be president of the United States for the next 4 years. What's important is what happens in counties and cities like this one, in states like Alabama, and whether or not people get a chance between now and 1972 and 1976 to build the kind of movement we need. Now, we're not going to get it from Tricky Dick Nixon, and you're not going to get it from Cornpone George. Now, I'm sure you're going to get it from Happy Hubert and from Mr. Muskie.
Here in Montgomery occupy a very special place in the history of the movement in the United States of America. But I must say to you, as I've said to you before, that there are certain issues before us that we must discuss and that we must resolve. People are asking me, what do you think of the Vietnam War? And I must come back and say, in the first place, I think that we should be out of Vietnam. And secondly, I think that the Vietnamese people have the right to make their own decisions and their own black people free, and have allowed them to walk tall and proud as
For one thing, there's been a pullback of some 40,000 troops out of our corps. This is the corps in South Vietnam next to the DMZ. And North Vietnamese have pulled back some 40,000 troops up as far as Don Hoy
which is about 50 miles away, and this is the farthest they've pulled their troops back since the war began. Secondly, the North Vietnamese have agreed to observe the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. They've agreed not to put troops in there, not to send troops across them, and not to fire across the DMZ. And the important thing, in my opinion, is that General Abrams has been given the authority to use whatever force is necessary to meet any threat, whether it be by troops, artillery, or planes, even in North Vietnam, which means he can resume the bombing at any time in his discretion. He doesn't have to go back to Washington for this authority. And I think this is very significant and certainly represents a radical change and departure.
Well, I think it's tremendous. We're proud to have the endorsement of Governor Wallace. Of course, we've always been for Governor Wallace. This is not really anything new. He has supported the Alabama Democratic ticket all along. I am glad that it has come out in the newspaper and other television, other media, that he is actively supporting my candidacy and the candidacy of the other Alabama Democrats under the rooster for Congress in this state.
How do you feel your chances are of winning on the eve of election?
Have a very excellent chance. I think we've conducted the race in such a manner as best we could, not to discuss anything but the issues. There have been tactics aimed at my campaign that I'm convinced at this point that the public realizes were deliberately aimed to discredit me and my wife and the people with the Wallace campaign, Wallace himself. And I'm convinced at this point that the people understand that they need a full-time representative in Congress, a man that's interested in them, a man that's dedicated to serving them, and that can stay there a long time and serve them. And I believe tomorrow that the people will support me for Congress.
And I must say to them that if the Vietnamese people want Ho Chi Minh to represent them in their country, then they have the right to do that. And the 5.5 million troops that we have there, or however many there are, protecting the Vietnamese people, ought to be brought back to the state of Alabama so that we can be assured that justice will reign in the state of Alabama for black and white people alike, because it's a rumor here. And I do not believe that law and order is the issue today, because law and order is a smokescreen to suppress black people all over the nation. And the dangerous thing about suppressing black people over this nation is that in the process of suppressing black people, that white must go the same way. And we must all allow ourselves to say to this type of system of militarism, we must say to the power structure of Alabama that we have come too far to turn around now.
I'm confident that Governor Wallace has made a major contribution along these lines, that is of local self-determination and local government in dealing with the vital issues which are so important in the lives of the citizens of this country and all of the states of this nation. And I do believe that it will have a profound effect during the next 4 years, the course of this administration, that is the ensuing national administration, due in large part to the efforts of Governor Wallace and his philosophy and his campaign. To note the tone and the tenor of the campaign speeches of Mr. Nixon and Mr. Humphrey is to realize the tremendous influence which Governor Wallace had in this campaign. The issues of law and order, crime, safety in our streets, fiscal responsibility, things that he pointed up repeatedly, were both parroted before the end of the campaign by the other two candidates. I join with the people of Alabama in mourning the loss of this great and good man, who was an outstanding legislator and governor, and gave of himself in service to the people he loved. I have today ordered flags on state property throughout Alabama, lowered to half-staff through the day of the funeral as an official period of mourning. General Todd, General Walter E. Todd, who is presently serving as administrator of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, has submitted his resignation to the board effective November 15. Of course, in reality, this is the submission of the resignation, I suppose, to me, and I very reluctantly have accepted it. Based on the pronouncements during the campaign, I'd say yes. Based on the record of service, while each has been in office, I see very little difference between them. I would hope that Mr. Nixon is a man of his word, though, and that the conduct of the affairs of the presidency during his administration will be in line with the platform on which he ran and with his philosophy as expressed during the campaign. And in that event, then I think it would be preferable to that of the other candidate.